Just a little disclaimer for this video, the numbers that I say out loud verbally in the video are slightly off, but if you pay attention to the running total in the bottom left hand corner, that is the accurate number. Hello everybody and welcome to the video that no one really wants to make. My name is Boosted John and this is my Turbo LS VTEC Civic. It's a fully built LS VTEC motor with an eBay turbo kit. Sounds kind of ludicrous, but in today's video I am going to be going through all of the costs that it took to build this car, and I'm going to be adding it up to a total and telling you guys whether or not I think it was worth it. Now really quick, before I get into this video and before I get into the cost breakdown, I have a word from our sponsor. Yes, this is the most cliche YouTuber thing, but today's video sponsor is me. Every YouTuber has said this at some point, but I think it goes a lot longer in terms of my case because I have not been collecting any YouTube revenue for the past 10 or 11 months because I'm giving it all away to one of you guys. If you haven't seen that video explaining that whole giveaway, I'll put it up above up here. Feel free to check that out, but I am giving away an entire year of YouTube revenue. So I've not been collecting any revenue. So this car was completely built with my own money. So due to that, I am reworking my Patreon page. I am going to be listing merch for sale on there with the different tiers that you can sign up for. So on my actual merch website, I used to have jet tags listed for $10. So if you become a patron at $10, you get a jet tag. If you want to cancel your subscription right after that payment goes through and I send you your jet tag, you're more than welcome to. I appreciate any and all support. Jet tags will be the $10 tier. Hats will be the $25 tier. And I'm gonna be working on getting some stickers soon that'll be for like a cheaper tier. I just don't have those ready yet. I have the designs, I just don't have any actual physical stickers. So with that said, at the end of this video, when I reveal the cost of this car, if you feel like you wanna help me and help my channel grow and help support me on YouTube, please check out my Patreon. Check out what I have to offer on there. There'll be some of these hats available and also some of these super slick PCEA jet tags. It says Boosted John in the back. Okay, awesome. Thank you for listening to that. I'm gonna go ahead and start going through this list of items that I have written down. It's a very long list, and here are just some of the receipts that I have from this build. So the thing that I'm gonna start with are the things that I put into the EG before I actually started this version of this build. It's things that I needed to be able to boost it before I rebuilt the motor anyway, so it's stuff that you would have to get if you were gonna do this build anyway. So the cost of the car was $2,500. The turbo kit itself was like $600 from eBay. The ECU, which is the Honda LS V3, was $450. I put it in myself, so I saved myself the cost of having it installed. The wideband is an AEM Uego like X series, which is a $180 wideband. It's the gauge plus the O2 sensor. My fender exit exhaust was welded up by Gingium, so that was free. Wastegate dump was also free. Thank you, Gingium, again. My headlights were $100, and my head unit was $85. Also, my fuel injectors, which are South-based 750cc injectors, were $350. I forgot to include the cost of fuel pump, but that was like another $80. I included a miscellaneous section towards the end of the video. That will probably fall in there. There are some things that I'm for sure gonna forget. Okay, so far, the cost of the car plus everything before I started this engine build, $4,265. So, still pretty reasonable. You know, boosted Civic, 4K, not bad. Pretty clean shell, a lot of rust underneath, not too bad. Now, this is where it's gonna start getting crazy. I broke this down to sections of the motor, so if you guys wanted to build like maybe just your bottom end or just the head or whatever, you'll see the total cost just for each of those things, and at the end I'll total it up. So we're gonna start with the bottom end. I started with a B18B non-VTEC motor. Completely took it down, disassembled it down to the engine block. If you wanna see that video, it's really satisfying, it's up here. Once I was at that point, I had cylinder support system reinforced the deck, which was $500, including shipping. I had Wiseco pistons, Manley H-beam rods, ACL race bearings, machine assembly, bore, hone, surface polish, crank, wash, heat, assemble, and a new VTEC crank. Just a VTEC crank, but it's a new crank. My old crank was bad, so you might be able to get away with just reusing your crank. I couldn't. All of that was $1,850, so $1,850. Also, I included some other things in the bottom end, so this is like short block stuff. Rear main seal, ARP studs, oil pump, which is like OEM, LS VTEC head gasket, water pump, timing belt from Gates Racing, oil pickup gasket, and oil pump O-ring, and the timing belt tensioner. That was another $775. Also, I got a Moroso oil pan, OEM oil pan gasket. So the total for the bottom end, everything I spent on the lower half of the engine, was $2,825. So far, our total with just the bottom end and the cost of the car beforehand with the turbo kit, $6,740. Moving on to the cylinder head. The cylinder head that I went with is a 1990 B16 JDM VTEC cylinder head. So this is an actual JDM head. Honestly, don't do what I did because it just makes getting parts far less convenient. Get a USDM one if you can. I found a pretty good deal on this one, so it was already ported and polished. Valves, valve springs, everything. It was like a fully built head basically, just with stock B16 cams. That cost me, with shipping, $1,433.09. The rest of the things I needed for the head were a valve cover gasket, $35, VTEC dowel and O-ring, which is something that if you've never built a VTEC head, you'll need. That was $15. Having the valve cover powder coated was $85. The weld-on bungs for the valve cover were $16 total. I got a VTEC cap that was like a dress-up thing. That was $18, pretty overpriced, but you know, boy gotta flex sometimes. Crankshaft keyway, which should have been in the bottom end segment, that was $5. VTEC solenoid gasket, $25. Spark plug wires, $60. Spark plugs, $30, both NGK. Intake manifold gasket, $24. The thermal gasket, it's reusable. Exhaust manifold gasket, $19. Intake manifold was free. Thank you, Mark from 16 Motorsports. Just hooked me up with an intake manifold so that I could practice porting it and port matching it. And I bought 2 distributors because they were cheap eBay ones. One's a backup just in case this one fails. $133.26. So the total for the cylinder head and the top half of the engine is $1,898 and also 9 cents. So with the car before the build and the turbo kit, the bottom end and the head, we are at $8,638 and 9 cents. This is starting to get ridiculous, guys. And I can tell you right now, when I was adding this up yesterday, I had a pit in my stomach. I actually felt terrible. I still do. But we're gonna talk about that later. This is gonna be the section where I call it supporting parts. This is gonna be the things that you don't really think about when you're just planning your build. You're like, oh yeah, I'm just like build the bottom end, I'll get a VTEC head, I'll throw it on, it'll be great. And these are the things that you forget about, kinda. You don't really take them into account at the time. So this is coolant hoses, $66. Golden Eagle VTEC kit, $200. That was with no gasket because I already had a gasket. eBay 10-pound flywheel, $101.58. eBay Stage 3 clutch, $69. Haters gonna hate. Battery relocation kit to put in the trunk, $84.99. Total ripoff. Source the parts yourself. All 3 motor mounts were roughly $350. The billet motor mount bracket was $85. Fuel fittings were $13. Intake air temp bung, I had to relocate my intake air temp sensor, so that was another $21. Fuel filter, $30. 90-degree fuel fitting, $20. Fuel gauge and 90-degree fitting for the fuel gauge were $35. K-tuned 4-bar map sensor, $89. Clutch and pressure plates bolts, $65. O2 sensor, $105. I had to get another wideband O2 sensor because mine failed previously. Fuel gauge, $25. Fuel lines, $135. Mark hooked me up on that. That's just probably what you guys would pay. He was helping me for like a sponsored video on that one, so that was solid. Thank you, Mark. S2000 clutch master cylinder, slave, and clutch line kit with the spacer is $150. Again, Mark hooked me up on that as well, so I did not pay $150. Thank you, Mark. And a sock for my brake reservoir and some pins, some ECU pins to wire in the VTEC wire were $10. So the total on just supporting parts, just things that you kind of just forget about, $2,049.66. So far, with the car, the bottom end, the head, and the supporting parts, we're at $10,688. No comment. Okay, so if you were just gonna rebuild your motor, stop there. Well, I got one more after this part, but pretty much that's what you're looking at if you're just gonna build your motor. Now, I also chose to upgrade the brakes slightly and upgrade the suspension, just because I felt like since the car's gonna have so much more power, I want it to be dialed and safe and predictable. So I got some power and control coilovers from 16 Motorsports for $950. I also got some True Heart lower control arms, which are $124. Lower control arm bolts, $24. Prothane front bushing kit was $65. Centric rotors and Hawk HPS pads were $135. Brake lines would have been $150. Mark hooked me up on those as well, so thank you again, Mark. Front lower roll center adjuster ball joints were $100. Upper camber arms were $120. Skunk 2 uprights for those camber arms were $65. They're like polyurethane, they're pretty nice. Getting a new steering rack was $300, and my outer tie rods were $30. So on suspension, I spent $2,063. We're at $12,751 so far. And last but not least, something that people definitely forget and neglect to think about when building a car are the fluids and miscellaneous. Honda manual transmission fluid, $36. Oil and filters, I did multiple oil changes, replaced multiple filters throughout the process of breaking in the engine and stuff like that. That was $130. Paint for the engine bay and different coatings that I used to paint the suspension, $200. My tune was $400. And just random stuff that I forgot about, like the fuel pump is in there. I just allotted $300 for extra stuff that I just didn't remember to put in here. So the fluids and miscellaneous section adds up to $1,066, which brings the grand total of this car to $14,167, including the cost of the car. Now that you know the total of this car and how much time and money I spent doing this, if you'd like to support me, again, please feel free to check out my Patreon. If not, no big deal. I appreciate even just watching the video, hitting the like button. I appreciate everything so much. So thank you guys. The subs are up, the views are up right now. W's, all day W's. So I think this is where this video is about to get kind of interesting. Was it worth it? Would I do this again? Do I regret it? And the truth is, right now, I'm not sure. Was it worth it? So far, no. I'd say no, 100% would not recommend it. For me right now, at my point in my life. Was this smart? No, not really. And that's the part that really sucks about it, because I've created something really cool, really fun, and something that people respect, and I do too. But looking at that number, 14,167, I just think about what other routes I could have gone on YouTube with car builds and spent half that money and had even better content, you know what I mean? There are definitely some things that I'm really happy about with this build, and that's how much I learned. That has got to be one of the biggest ones. Not only just like financially, like I learned that this was probably really stupid. I also learned so much about working on cars. I had never really rebuilt an engine before. I had never really even pulled an engine before. Like I did that by myself, you know, disassembled the engine. A machine shop did the bottom end assembly, and like a machine shop did the head assembly, but I like, you know, put it all together and made it work and made it run and drive and make power. You know, it's really, really cool that I did that, and I'm really proud of myself for being able to do that just on my own. Obviously I had a lot of help from other people with instruction and stuff, but I mean, I built this car in my grandma's driveway. I built this car in the dead of winter on my grandma's patio. So that to me is cool. But at the same time, it's not, because it's my grandma's patio, not my shop that I pay for with YouTube money, that gets reinvested into my channel, that makes my channel grow and gets me hundreds of thousands of views and makes thousands of dollars every month. It's not that yet. And that is the part that really sucks for me right now, is that I did all this work and I made all these videos and I don't have much to show for it yet. Now I'm still confident, I'm still very confident and very, very hopeful that someday I'll do YouTube full time, but right now I'm not. And I kind of just did like a full-time YouTuber build in terms of investing capital into it, and I'm not getting full-time YouTuber rewards out of it yet. I knew that going in. It's my own fault. Someday it won't be that way, and I'll look back on this moment as a very, very good learning experience. Is an LS VTEC motor fully built with a turbo kit a great motor? Absolutely. Absolutely. If I had some different camshafts, a little bit better turbo setup with like the intercooler piping and stuff, you know, I can make 500 horsepower in this engine, no problem, which is freaking unbelievable from a 1.8 liter 4-cylinder made 30 years ago. Was it the best idea for me right now? Nah. And that's kind of where I stand on whether or not this was worth it. Is it worth it for someone out there? Totally. Totally, you're gonna have a blast. Fun to build, super easy to build. You can make tons of power, but for me right now, it was a bad idea. I love this car. I hope to own this car for the rest of my life. This thing is going to be a Cars and Coffee legend in 20 years. So you know, they say take risks when you're young. I've done that. I've learned from it. I will recover from it. That's pretty much all I have to say. If you have questions about the build, if you want to know why I did something a certain way, why I chose a certain part, whatever, literally any questions you have about the build, please leave them in the comments down below, or feel free to DM me on Instagram at boosted_John. I respond to almost all DMs. I'm very active on there. But yeah, I'm sure sure there are a lot of things you guys are still wondering, so ask away on Instagram or in the comment section. So last thing before I wrap it up, this is not the end of this series. Like, I still have so many videos planned for this car, and frankly, they're probably gonna be some of the most fun videos I've made on YouTube to this date, so I'm very excited about that. You guys should be too. Again, if you'd like to check out my Patreon, I'd really appreciate it. By the time this video's up, it will be updated with the merch and everything, and all the tiers will be adjusted. That is all I have to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and as I always say, boys, remember to plan, commit, execute, and attain your goals.